Hello again, my friends, and once again, your friendly Warhammer tourist is here to bring you a little bit of news. This was found on Twitter today, and it comes from 4chan, so I recommend you take it not with just a boulder of salt, but preferably an entire mountain. 4chan is not exactly the most reliable of sources, but at the same time, it can be the most fun of sources. So what we have here is an anonymous insider claiming to have information about why female Custodes were introduced to Warhammer, or, well, they claim that they have always been there. Female Custodes are only going to be mentioned in the Codex. No new sculpts or characters after the fact. Social media department jumped the gun and tried to put out fires with the wrong hose. Intent is to push female Custodes character in Amazon show without it breaking lore, because Amazon execs wanted a woman in power armor and wouldn't settle for Sisters of Battle. People involved in the show are pissed because they've been making moves ahead on Eisenhorn. Talks of inserting said female Custodes into Eisenhorn's story, with Cavill threatening to walk away from the project. Small stock dropped today, but GW figures it can write it out if it stays mum on the subject. They really need better social media employees. Cavill will be in an article due to heading to GW to work on the new series this week or next. If he leaves, it'll be a noticeable hit to the share prices, meaning the show is dead, the good ending, or Amazon is calling the shots, bad ending, not Black Jagorians, but similar scenario. You can trust me, my dad works at Nintendo. Okay. Further conversation. I'm not sure what the drunk comment here has to do with anything, so we're going to skip that. The deal in the first place was super fragile. Nothing was inked when Cavill announced it and sent everyone at GW into a panic. Shareholders put an immediate stop to any work until the contract was hammered out and the negotiations were brutal. If it could impact profits on the minis, GW didn't want to touch it, which is why this Custodes thing was a dumpster fire. People who should have known about it didn't, and success or not, people are going to be let go. Another person says, don't dick ride him too hard. He's always prided himself on the idea of nerd who made it. His concern is losing the clout of being known as the superfan celebrity. Correct. Again, as stated earlier, people are going to be fired for this. They weren't supposed to comment on this debacle until the crisis management meeting was called, but they did anyway. That's why the responses were so lukewarm, like, how can you tell under the helmet? And they've always existed, we just never mentioned one. People are already calling for new sculpts and female heads, which was never the intention. I was still a bit drunk and thought it was funny. I don't believe anything I read on the internet and don't expect anyone else to either. It has nothing to do with the models. Literally nobody was under the impression this would get women to buy Custodes. Sisters of Silence don't speak. The differently abled suggestion was pushed by GW, but they don't speak by choice. Sisters of Battle are too religious, and Amazon thinks it'll be a turnoff. The female Inquisitor in power armor was the last hope, but Amazon wants to be able to take the character out of the armor and still have them be powerful. It's all been a massive headache. Too long didn't read. GW isn't really supporting them at all. They're just in there because Amazon is forcing them to put them in the new show, and they need them to exist in the lore beforehand. It's a stage 4 cancer situation. A business partnership shared the cancer from one company to the other. GW does not actually want this lore change and are trying to do it as minimally as possible. No models, no art, no future lore mentions of them, etc. Big if true. If Henry Cavill is threatening to walk away from the 40K show if they force him to include the token female Custodes in the Eisenhorn series or other such DEI changes. Cavill might have caused the situation on accident because he leaked the show before the paperwork was finalized, which gave Amazon a lot more negotiation power than they should have had. GW will be bringing Cavill to the GW HQ to work on the project in the next few weeks and try and salvage this. If they fail to get him to come in, or he walks outright, either the show is dead, except female Custodes to be retconned ASAP, or Amazon will have arranged editorial control over the 40K show, and thus 40K for as long as the deal is live. Social media team responded without permission. No, there have not always been female Custodes. They wanted to just quietly drop it and ignore it. This caused the disaster to explode into a clusterfuck that reached the Daily Mail newspaper, and people will be losing their jobs over this. That's a big if true, and it sounds plausible to me. I don't know how real it is. I suppose we'll find out. That's 4chan for you, you know? Let's see if there's anything else in here. Another one says, this is huge if true, but that's a huge if. Everything about this has felt off. A big change to a faction like this would usually result in GW crowing about it art from the rooftops with a new model, art, novel, etc. They did nothing like that. If this is true, it's because they didn't want this change and were hoping to sneak it in quietly and ignore it going forward. And apparently there's one more leak here with a slightly darker tone. It has nothing to do with female Custodes, but is interesting and has been covered by the Outer Circle amongst others. Apparently this is from someone named Hashi on Discord. Hashi, see if we can blow that up into a way that I can read it and you can read it. Good luck to us both.
5 minutes later.
All right. I feel like there's no way in hell you guys are going to be able to read this, thus I'm going to have to read most of it. I tried to double check some of these pronunciations, and I apologize again if I screw something up, but I will do my best. Apparently, Games Workshop leak is right here on our screen. It says, here's what the fuck is going down. All resin is being phased out by 2025 to comply with new government rulings on non-recyclable plastics to avoid bigger tax charges. Beasts of Chaos are being moved to balance out the old world and have more variety to avoid another Horus heresy, where players still scream for Elder or Orcs to this day. They were planned for a AOS revamp at the start of the 3rd edition, including Kragnos being the centerpiece, which was obviously scrapped. Instead, this is so they get a new TOW range without having to design one. Yes, Kislev was scrapped because of Russian invasion of Ukraine. They are already in GW's Books of Grudges for their recast fiefdoms, but the timing was just felt to be in poor taste. But they aren't scrapped forever, just shelved until that dies down. Cathay, however, was never really happening. Araby might be. Warcry is getting a revamp in a new 3rd edition. It is closer to Mordheim, Necromunda, Middle-earth, and rules, and truly AOS kill team, and the whole cults and the 8 points idea is being retired. Starter box is Cities of Sigmar versus Skaven. TOW is underperforming against projections, but not massively, most attributed to lack of a big villain draw when Tomb King don't seem to be considered a villain in the grand scheme of things. The first major event reintroducing more armies from the Legend stable is expected to pick up the slack. Skaven is a popular army among players, but with the intent of keeping TOW and AOS divided from the choice was made to give AOS the Skaven option for notable chaos reliefs in 2024, and TOW will be seeing the return of Vampire Courts by 2025. Soulblight Gravelords in 4th will be leaning further away from the original VC aesthetic to differentiate the two lines. Expect a Neferata model. Warhammer Underworlds is ending production this year. There is one final box planned after Wintermaw, along with the limited time reprint boxes of the most popular warbands of the past coming in quarterly waves as the last hurrah. It was intended to be a gateway game and a competitive casual tournament product, and didn't succeed at either, and the cost in board and cards makes them less profit than the Warcry terrain, so it's being dropped. Legions Imperialis has massively underperformed. Some of the blame is placed on people expecting epic 40k again and not wanting pure HH on a smaller scale. Others blame the launch window. Expect support for another year or two, but like Aeronautica, this game won't be around for very long. Necromunda and Horus Heresy both sell very well and turn a profit, and will be the most stable games for the foreseeable future. Middle-earth has seen a surprising uptick in sales this year, but with the external license, its support will always be lesser than the rest, but don't expect it to go anywhere anytime soon. Expect more than Stormcast Eternals to get a large range discontinuing. Post-lockdown Indomitus, the people holding the purse strings, mainly those who jumped in from other parts of the tabletop pie, like TCGs, have been asking, what do you mean people buy product and then may go a decade without buying more? And the new mandate is that a customer should be replacing their army every 3 to 4 years, long enough to grow attached emotionally, but not long enough to be unwilling to buy another. This means a few armies/sub-factions are going away in the next 2 years. For AOS, Dispossessed, any High Elf, Wood Elf, outside Resin, and some Dark Elves will be retired. Others moved into other battle tomes, such as the Daughters of Cain. It's unconfirmed, but don't expect Fire Slayers to be around forever. For 40k, Death Guard, Adeptus Mechanicus, Genestealer Cult, and Adeptus Astartes are all losing a few units. Harlequins are gone completely, and Grey Knights are becoming a universal ally option for Imperium forces rather than a standalone army, with Custodes intended to fill their former niche. Both major titles will see another attempt at Everchosen/Eye of Terror mini battle tomes/codexes intended for narrative, smaller-sized games. First two are Battle Tome Blighted Crusade and Codex Imperial Agents, releasing this autumn. This is part of the Wizards of the Coastification of GW at the advice of shareholders and U.S. consultants. Smaller, faster games with more focus on ease of entry. Oh god, I'm so sorry guys. That's part of what happened to D&D. The combat patrol and spear tips are intended to function like the Magic the Gathering pre-constructed commander decks. Expensive lifestyle products that a player can buy, put together, and have balanced games against each other. The intent over time is less players with 30,000 points of Dark Angels and more players with 2,000 points in every army range. With the rise in alternate hobby products such as paints and tools, the range of Citadel paints is being reduced. If something has an option where a contrast paint can fill the role of both, expect the base/layer of said color to go away. Primers are also being cut down to Gray Seer, Chaos Black, Mechanicus Standard Gray, Iron Warriors, Xandri Dust, and Death Guard Green. Too long didn't read. The COVID boom is over, and cost cuts are happening to avoid increases in outgoings. Bonus gossip. No, Chaos Dwarves aren't happening. They look too anti-Semitic for it, and GW has a problem with it being seen as the Nazi company and won't touch them again, at least not in the original sense. TOW sold a lot of Tomb King models, but very few Bretonians by comparison. Just a bit of trivia there. The high-up old guard dinosaurs are really not happy with people like Peachy and Suggs giving insider secrets and getting people on social media to demand artist credit on paint jobs. A lot of stores saw the change from Games Workshop to the Warhammer shop see a shocking decline in regular attendance. At first this was waved away as COVID, as many things were by the wrong people in jobs they were shit at, but there have been more store closures in the last 5 years than the 20 before it. People would rather shop online or go to a third-party store with more tables and amenities. A lot of the leaks of screenshots and sprues are not leaks, but official intended PR. The excitement makes word of mouth spread faster than the plague on places like Twitter and Reddit. White Dwarf sells terribly, and despite changes to insert cards, rules, and more painting guides, the internet largely made it redundant, and they have just been holding on for the big issue 500. It's almost been canceled twice in the last 5 years and will probably go all digital or on hiatus in the next year. Stop bringing up the Damon Kolaba? The Damon Kolaba? I apologize. It was a writer's fetish insert, and you are absolutely that guy when you bring it up every time you visit Warhammer World and try to talk to female customers about 40k. Yes, I'm talking about you, Greg, from Wadland Coat. Cut it out. Everybody hates it. I feel like that was a personal message directly to somebody. Greg, stop it. So that was interesting. The one part about them trying to make the barrier of entry easier. There's a reason for barriers of entry. Yes, you don't want them to be too high so nobody joins, but at the same time, there are people who don't belong in certain places, and they ought to be kept in a way that encourages others to find places they're better suited. What do you guys think about it? Educate me a little more. Maybe if I keep reporting on this stuff, I might actually get into 40k. I doubt it. I don't have a lot of time these days, and there's seems like a very lore-intensive hobby. I already have D&D, which I will be playing this Sunday on my channel. 3.5. Yay. No, I actually like 3.5. I prefer 2, but I like 3.5. I appreciate y'all listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll catch you later.